All right, chess fans, we're here at the third or the sixth game in the analysis series of the Rocky Mountain Team Chess Challenge, featuring the matchup between Colorado's Jackson Chen and New Mexico's John Flores. Both achieved second board status by virtue of winning their respective uh, Scholastic Close championships. Jackson winning the Colorado Scholastic Close is a high 1800, mid 1800, somewhere in that range. John is a high 1900 from New Mexico by virtue of winning the Danker Close qualifier. Both players will actually represent their states in the Danker Championship. For those of you who don't know, the Danker Championship is a tournament where every state has the right to submit their scholastic champion, and it's played alongside the U.S. Open this year towards the end of July, beginning of August in Irvine, California. This is John's third consecutive year in playing in this tournament. All right, so let's get to the pictures. John is on the right, shaking hands with Jackson Chen on the left. A couple of menacing foes at the board. This is actually a game that we expected to have some sort of advantage based off of their the ratings and their past playing experience. John has a 100-point rating edge on Jackson or thereabouts, and thus we felt pretty good about this game going into it. We could play Queen's Gambit. Exchange variation, pretty standard stuff. Most often the bishop will go to f4, but really bishop g5 is just as playable. And bishop b4 is played. Queen to a5, and typically white will castle here. And give up the pawn. You'll see something, if black chooses to take the pawn, you'll see something like, rook c1. This isn't the actual game. You'll see rook c1, queen b2, queen a4, and white will have a real nice game here, actually. Usually black does not take the pawn. Something like bishop d7, if that's played, rook b1. In either way, if not bishop d7 and something like castle, then you can take there, or that's one of several moves. But you can see black's queen, although put in an aggressive position, is somewhat out of place, or at least it permits white some tempos, with things like rook to b1 and whatnot. Both white has ample compensation for the pawn, and pretty much he can get it back or gain a lot of development depending on which route he chooses. So, all right. So anyway, bishop back to the game. Queen a5, and John elects to try to hold the pawn there with knight c4. Oh, by the way, the most common continuation here, I think, after this and castle is actually knight e4, or excuse me, take and then knight e4. In case to save you some time at actually looking some of the lines. All right, so bishop d3, queen a5, queen c2. So he is safeguarding the c3 square. He doesn't want to give away the pawn. Knight e4 is played, and actually this exchange, at this point, I would say that black has already at least equalized the position, probably a little bit better. Rook c1 is played, and queen takes a2. So right now, compared to the other line, white doesn't really have the advantage of castling and then winning the tempo on the queen. on the black queen. And black has basically gotten everything he would want out of the first 10 moves. John goes ahead and liquidates there on e4. The best continuation I would feel would be something like taking on e4 and then knight d2, and black would something like this we would see, and black is more than okay here. Probably actually I'd say most definitely has the edge. As you can see, the knight can't take due to the pin on the king. Excuse me. All right, so he plays bishop takes e4, and black here. This is actually this board is played next to me as I was on first board, so I could see it. And I caught it at this point, and I'll give you about 5 seconds to see what white should do here. Okay, clearly the move is b takes c3. And the idea here is after b takes c3, the black queen is left unprotected. If the queen moves off, then just simply bishop d3 and white is up entire piece, or a piece for a pawn, but comfortably a piece. And it doesn't matter if, there really makes no difference. If queen takes queen, the bishop actually comes back and will no longer be attacked. And white's still up a piece. And black really has no counterplay for this. The position's almost resignable. At a high level, it definitely would be. So he takes here, and John, after the match, we talked a little shortly about it, and his rationale was that he didn't want to exchange queens, but I think he missed the fact that the bishop, in fact, can come back to c2 after the exchange, and so he just played queen c3. So it was a pretty big miss there. D takes e4. And right now, I think that, black is up a pawn, not entirely comfortably, but the compensation of white, I don't think suffices for an entire pawn. He goes ahead and plays d5 to open up lines. Clearly, if queen takes d5, then rook d1. And say the queen moves anywhere, you have this cute little trick with rook d8 mate. But Jackson wisely does not take and plays queen a5, and thus John's going to have to trade queens anyway. So after takes here, there could be an exchange, and then the knight there hangs, and thus John doesn't win his piece after all. All right, so queen a5 and the exchange. I think this is actual game. When knight takes a5 was played, I think maybe the best continuation here might be something like take still, and then take. And taking on b7 is possible, but with the idea of like rook c7, and so you're threatening the bishop and you're threatening rook e7 check.